I recently faced a horrible nightmare that I never thought would happen to me. I'm standing in my own backyard, and this entitled punk is climbing over my pool fence like he owns the place. Then he pulls out his phone and calls 911 on me. Yeah, you heard that right. This HOA Karen's son is literally trespassing on my property, and he's the one calling the cops. All because I installed a smart lock on my own fence. But here's where it gets good. What he didn't know, my cameras had been recording everything for the past 3 weeks, and what I caught on those recordings was absolutely insane because by the time those officers arrived, I had evidence that would not only get him arrested, but would completely obliterate his mother's stranglehold on our entire HOA. This story, it gets wild, stay with me. Let me back up and give you some context. My name's irrelevant, but what is relevant is that I bought my dream home about 2 years ago in what I thought was a quiet, peaceful neighborhood. Beautiful houses, manicured lawns, and HOA. I know, red flag number one, but the previous owner assured me the HOA was pretty chill and barely involved. That was lie number one. Enter Linda, HOA President Linda, or as the neighborhood secretly calls her, the dictator. This woman had her fingers in everything. Your mailbox is half an inch too far to the left, violation. Your grass is a quarter inch too long, violation. You want to paint your front door a shade of blue that's not on the approved color palette. Oh, you better believe that's a violation. But I kept my head down, paid my dues, followed the rules. I even joined a few HOA meetings to stay in the loop. Big mistake, because that's where I met her son, Kyle. Kyle was 23, unemployed, still living with mommy, and had this inflated sense of authority because his mother ran the HOA. He'd walk around the neighborhood like he was some kind of deputy, taking photos of violations, harassing residents, and generally making everyone's life miserable. Now here's where my story really begins. Last summer, I decided to install a pool. Nothing crazy, just a nice above-ground pool in my backyard for my kids. I checked all the HOA rules, got the proper permits, made sure everything was up to code. I even paid extra to have a professional fence installed around it for safety. Everything was perfect, or so I thought. About a week after the pool was installed, I started noticing something strange. The gate to my pool fence would be open in the mornings. At first, I thought maybe I forgot to close it. Then it happened again and again. Then one morning, I found wet footprints leading from my pool to my back gate. Someone had been using my pool at night without permission. I was furious, but I'm a smart guy. Instead of confronting anyone immediately, I installed a smart lock on my pool fence gate. One of those really nice ones with a keypad and an app that logs every time the gate opens or closes. I also installed security cameras covering my entire backyard, and I waited. Day 1, nothing. Day 2, nothing. But on day 3, day 3 was magical. It was about 11 p.m. when my phone buzzed. Smart lock app, gate access denied, code attempt failed. Then another notification. Gate access denied, code attempt failed. Someone was trying to break into my pool area. I pulled up my security camera app and there he was, Kyle, Linda's precious son, trying different combinations on my smart lock, getting more and more frustrated with each failed attempt. But here's the thing that made my blood boil. After failing to crack the code, this idiot goes to my shed, grabs a ladder, and climbs over my 6-foot fence to get into my pool area anyway. I watched on my phone as he stripped down to his swim trunks, which he was apparently wearing under his clothes, and jumped into my pool, in my backyard, without permission. I could have called the cops right then. But something told me to wait to gather more evidence, because if Kyle was bold enough to do this once, he'd do it again, and boy was I right. Over the next 3 weeks, Kyle trespassed into my backyard 14 times. 14, each time my cameras caught everything. Him climbing the fence, him using my pool, him leaving beer cans on my deck, him even bringing friends over a couple of times. But the absolute worst incident. He brought a girl over and they got, let's just say, very comfortable in my pool. I'm talking full-on inappropriate behavior that I will not be describing in detail because this is a family-friendly channel. I had all the evidence I needed, video timestamps, smart lock logs showing attempted break-ins, everything. I compiled it all into a neat folder and prepared to take it to the police, but then I had a better idea. See, Linda had been giving me grief for weeks about my pool fence. She claimed the design wasn't aesthetically pleasing and didn't match the neighborhood's visual standards. She sent me 3 violation notices demanding I change the fence style, even though I'd gotten approval for it initially. I'd been ignoring her notices because legally I was in the clear. But she was making my life hell, threatening fines, threatening to sue, all that typical HOA dictator nonsense, so I decided to kill two birds with one stone. I sent Linda a certified letter, very professional, very cordial. In it, I explained that I'd installed a smart lock on my pool fence for security reasons after noticing suspicious activity. I included screenshots of the smart lock logs showing multiple failed access attempts at late hours. I didn't mention Kyle by name. I didn't accuse anyone. I just stated facts and said I was concerned about potential trespassing and would be taking appropriate security measures. The letter was delivered on a Wednesday. By Thursday afternoon, my doorbell rang, and standing there, red-faced and furious, was Linda. Linda was livid. She started screaming at me right there on my doorstep about how dare I install a smart lock without HOA approval, how dare I accuse innocent residents of trespassing, and how she was going to fine me into oblivion. I let her rant. I stayed calm, and when she finally took a breath, I simply said, "Linda, I have video evidence of someone repeatedly trespassing into my backyard and using my pool without permission. Would you like to see it?" Her face went pale, and that's when I knew she knew it was Kyle. She tried to backtrack, saying that any alleged trespassing was probably just a misunderstanding and that I should handle it neighborly instead of making a big deal out of nothing. I told her I'd be happy to handle it neighborly. All she had to do was stop harassing me about my pool fence and drop all the violation notices. She refused, said she had a duty to uphold HOA standards, and stormed off. Fine, game on. That weekend I was in my backyard doing some gardening when guess who decided to make another appearance? That's right, Kyle, but this time it was during the day, and this time he wasn't sneaking. He walked right up to my pool fence, saw the smart lock, and started shaking the gate violently, trying to force it open. I walked over. "Can I help you?" He jumped, clearly not expecting me to be home. Then he got confrontational, started yelling about how I had no right to lock community property, and how his mom was going to make me regret installing that lock. I calmly explained that my backyard and pool were not community property. They were my private property, and he had no right to access them. That's when he said the line that still makes me laugh to this day. "I've been using this pool all summer. You can't just lock me out now." He literally admitted to trespassing, out loud, while my security cameras were recording. I smiled and said, "Kyle, you're trespassing right now. I'm going to need you to leave." And this absolute genius. He refused, said he wasn't going anywhere until I gave him the gate code. So I pulled out my phone and started dialing 911, and that's when Kyle pulled out his phone and called 911 first. I couldn't believe it. This kid was standing in my backyard trespassing, and he called the cops on me. I heard him on the phone. "Yes, hello, I need police. My neighbor installed an illegal lock on community property and is preventing residents from accessing the pool area. He's being threatening and aggressive." Lies. All lies, but I stayed calm because I had everything on camera. 2 police officers arrived about 10 minutes later. Linda showed up too, probably because Kyle called her in a panic. The officers asked what was going on. Kyle immediately launched into this dramatic story about how I'd illegally locked the community pool and was harassing residents who tried to use it. Linda backed him up, showing the officers the HOA bylaws and claiming the pool was technically on shared property. Due to some obscure zoning technicality, the officers looked at me. "Sir, is this your property?" I pulled out my property deed, which I'd conveniently grabbed from inside. "Yes, officer, this is 100% my private property. The pool, the fence, everything. It's all within my property lines." Then I pulled out my phone, and I have 3 weeks of video evidence showing this man. I pointed at Kyle, repeatedly trespassing into my backyard, climbing my fence, using my pool without permission, and leaving trash on my property. Linda's face went white. Kyle started stammering. I showed the officers the footage, all of it. Kyle climbing the fence, Kyle in the pool, Kyle with his friends, Kyle with that girl, the timestamps, the smart lock logs showing attempted break-ins. One officer looked at Kyle. "Son, is this you in these videos?" Kyle tried to deny it at first, but come on, the evidence was crystal clear. The officer turned to Linda. "Ma'am, is this your son?" She nodded, speechless for maybe the first time in her life. The officers asked if I wanted to press charges. I said yes, absolutely yes. Kyle was arrested right there for criminal trespassing, multiple counts. Linda tried to intervene, threatened to sue me, threatened to sue the police department, made a complete scene. But here's the beautiful part, the cherry on top. Remember how I mentioned Linda had been threatening to fine me and sue me over my pool fence? Well, turns out that when you're the HOA president and your son gets arrested for repeatedly trespassing into a homeowner's property, the other homeowners start paying attention. Word spread fast. Within days, half the neighborhood knew what happened. And suddenly, all these people started coming forward with their own stories about Linda and Kyle's harassment. An emergency HOA meeting was called. Linda tried to maintain control, but she was outvoted. The board demanded her resignation. She refused at first, but then someone mentioned that having her son's criminal trespassing case tied to her tenure as HOA president might open the HOA up to liability lawsuits. She resigned the next day. Kyle, he got 6 months probation, a criminal record, and a restraining order preventing him from coming within 100 feet of my property. As for me, I still have my pool. I still have my smart lock. And I now live in a neighborhood with a much more reasonable HOA president who actually respects people's property rights. The moral of the story: install security cameras, document everything, and never underestimate the power of a smart lock and a little patience. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this story of HOA justice, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more revenge stories. Trust me, I've got plenty more where this came from. See you in the next one. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more HOA revenge stories, and drop a comment telling me your craziest HOA experience. Have you ever dealt with an entitled HOA Karen? Let me know below.